And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Alix Steel to help take you through the closing bell. It's our global simulcast beginning right now with Scarlet Fu in the TV studio, Tim Stenovec in the radio booth, and a beautiful Carol Massar joining him alongside.
I know. Did you guys bond?
I know, we bonded. Don't worry, I'll be mad at her by tomorrow. We welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, radio, television, and our partnership with YouTube. Carol.
All right, having said that, I'm just, agog. I've lost for words. Semiconductors really outperforming in today's session. Take a look at the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index. There's 30 names, 29 are higher in today's session. I'm going to get into it a little bit later on in my gainers, but you do have some analysts out with some calls about one name in particular and kind of the group overall, or some of the other names in the group.
The S&P 500, it's in the green now. It's pretty much just flat on the day, and it kind of masks some bigger moves that we're seeing if you peel back the hood. We're seeing sort of outsized share move higher from NVIDIA, up 1.8%. Meta Platforms is down 2%. ServiceNow down 5%. So even though the index is flat, we're seeing actually some big moves within some of the stocks in there.
It doesn't matter if it's flat or just up slightly. Any positive mark next to the S&P 500 would make it the 35th closing record for this year.
I do have to point out, though, that what's interesting is that the semis are getting a nice boost. You get the stocks up. They hit an intraday record at one point. NVIDIA's up, had an upgrade. TSMC hit $1 trillion in market value. Like, that stuff is really kind of moving higher. In addition to Apple, yet another record high.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gets to the point, too, here as to whether you do have investors out there really, truly searching for something other than chip stocks, software stocks, and I guess basically everything that has sort of made this market what it is since those lows back in October. For right now, you're not really finding much else out there. That is the trade, and you see that reflected on your screen today, although the moves are modest indeed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down about 0.1%. The S&P 500 up about 0.1%, 72.85 and change right now. The NASDAQ Composite up about 51 points or 0.3%. And you did get some outperformance out of the small caps today with the S&P 400 up about 0.3% and the Russell 2000 up 0.6.
All right, back to the big caps I go, the S&P 500. And folks, you've got 278 names to the upside, gaining some ground today, 222 losing ground, and Scarlet, you've got 3 unchanged.
Yeah, and it's a very mixed picture when you look at the sector performances. Let's go to the IMAP right now for the S&P 500. You've got 11 sectors, and the biggest, most heaviest weighted sector that is leading the gains is tech, that is led by Corning, and materials and REITs also modestly higher. On the downside, communication services, and this is really paramount, dragging that group down by more than 1%. Energy and consumer staples also finishing down slightly.
Yeah, definitely a mixture of red and green there. All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers. The number 1 gainer on the NASDAQ 100 today, folks, Intel. It's the number 3 gainer in the S&P 500. This one finishing up more than 6% today, on track. This is a 4th straight positive session for the name. It's up more than 8% over that 4 days of trading. Milius Research saying we are believers in a catch-up trade for some in semis, hardware, and even software, those with lower expectations, adding that AMD, Intel, Apple, and IBM could all benefit from such a trade. So you definitely had Intel benefiting in today's trade. NVIDIA also up just shy of 2% off its highs of the day. UBS raising its price target on the company to $150 a share from $120, maintaining its buy rating. The stock closing at $128.23. So certainly has some room to run with that $150 price target. Another gainer in today's session had to do with some deal activity. You're talking about Morphic Holding. Ticker is MORF, not a name we talk about a lot, up 75% in today's session.
That's a great ticker, by the way.
It is Morph. It is a great ticker. Eli Lilly agreeing to buy it. It's about a $2.8 billion market cap biotech firm, U.S. gut drug maker. Lilly buying it for $3.2 billion. So some of the money it's been making on some of its obesity blockbuster Zepbound, plowing into something to maybe build out its pipeline. And one more for you, Corning, GLW, number 1 gainer in the S&P 500, up almost 12% today. We're getting into earnings season. This company coming out and saying that it reported some preliminary core sales for the second quarter of about $3.6 billion, guys, and that's ahead of the estimate of $3.41 billion. So that's a look at some gainers today.
Okay, you got the gainers. I got the decliners. I do want to start with one of the worst performers on a points basis in the S&P 500. That would be ServiceNow. Shares falling the most since May 30th, falling 5% today. This after Guggenheim cut its rating to sell from neutral. The The price target has been set to $640. It implies a 21% decrease from the close yesterday. Guggenheim says that the software company's valuation does not match its future risks. And let's talk Paramount Global, because a deal finally done. Shares, though, falling more than 5% after the media company agreed to merge with Skydance Media. The deal hands the control of the studio to producer David Ellison. Finally an end, at least we think, to one of the industry's most dramatic acquisitions. We talked to Chris Palmieri about this a little earlier. He said that one concern investors may have is what exactly is going to be different now? You know, it still has struggling assets, including those legacy linear TV. They're still trying to figure out what to do with streaming. The team out in LA did speak with David Ellison. He said that two assets he loves include CBS and Paramount Studios. So those are probably not going anywhere, but the question remains what happens to those other assets. And then another stock down more than 5% today, CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill. No fundamental news, but shares fell more than 5%. The 50-for-1 stock split took effect back on June 26th. Shares have slid about 9.6% since then. We should note that restaurants with positive foot traffic that have shown positive comps so far this year, like Chipotle and Wingstop, have performed exceedingly well, while the rest have struggled. This is according to Jim Solera over at Stephens.
It's nice to have the whole team back, guys. This feels like, you know, a real
Gang's back
close.
together.
All right, let's get to the bond market. Nothing happens. You're seeing yields a little bit up in the front end, down in the back end. You had that New York Fed inflation expectations numbers that came out, if you guys saw. So the 1 and the 5-year moved a bit lower. The 3-year moved a bit higher, but they're all kind of in the range at 3 or below. So that's something. But let's be honest, bond market's not going to move until at least maybe Powell, at least CPI.
All right, so there's a lot going on this week. Yep, we could be talking earnings, we could be talking the economic reports, we could be talking Powell, but we're a little obsessed with a date that's, 11 years from now, 2035. Mark your calendars, guys, because
We'll all
it seems
be here,
like...
okay?
I will definitely be here.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's when that final big Gateway Rail project between New York and New Jersey, it seems like it will get done because they got another big chunk of money, Tim, right, from the government.
They locked in
federal
$6.9 billion in federal funding. Securing the funding brings the total federal share of the project's cost to more than 70%, with its portion nearing $12 billion. That's according to the Port Authority released today. Guys, there's one tunnel right now that holds one train going one way between New York and New Jersey.
We wonder why there's
And when it
problems.
rains, everything stops.
Yeah, forget snow. So does this mean that that there won't be 90-minute delays anymore on the PATH train? Is this the point?
Well,
That's the idea.
I guess it's the New Jersey Transit train and Amtrak. That's what the.
it's got to get better, right? It's got to get better. Another tunnel, and they're going to do some
11
upgrades
years.
on the other
Hold your
stuff
breath
too.
for 11
And that
years.
would, Carol.
Yeah.
You said 2038, but I mean, we got to add another couple
Just
years.
20.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I think
that's
our
right.
grandchildren will definitely enjoy that whenever it actually finally does open, or great-grandchildren maybe. Another story I
I'll
was
be
keeping...
teleporting by then. But anyway, go ahead.
Maybe, potentially. Speaking of which, I was an interesting story going on with regards to Apple and Android phones. I don't know how many of you have Androids here, but if you work for Microsoft, at least if you work for Microsoft in China, you're not going to be allowed to bring that Android into their facilities anymore. They're basically saying because of security issues, they're saying employees can only have iPhones inside the venue.
So if you're a Chinese consumer, you can tell whether you work for the government or whether you work for Microsoft based on what phone you're carrying at this point.
I thought that was interesting too. Why are they splitting that up? What does the government know that Microsoft doesn't? Or what does Microsoft know that the government doesn't?
Well, the government just doesn't want people to use Apple iPhones, period.
I mean-
and Microsoft is doing this for security reasons.
Talk about frenemies, though, right? Microsoft and Apple. These two companies, for years, have competed against one another. And now one company is saying, you must use our competitors' phones in order to, be in our office in China. It's pretty amazing, the shift in the shift in these two companies that we've seen.
It also highlights the other issue too, is that there's, for the most part, at least in terms of operating systems, there's really only two out there, right?
Right.
I mean, I know there's something else I'm probably forgetting, like BlackBerry or something like that, but I mean, this is it, right? I mean, you have one of two options.
Yeah.
Can the government then go back and say, Microsoft, no, we only want these phones? Or it's just you have to be a government employee in theory?
That to me is the bigger question, right? The involvement maybe of the government in all of this.
You're right. Are they going to Bigfoot and come in and say, no, you can't do that? That doesn't work for us at all.
Or maybe no phones at all.
Oh, man.
Well, that's the teleporting, going back to something else. Maybe it's like a different teleportation thing that you just like osmosis things and it goes to someone else's brain.
Or you just work from home and you don't use a device.
Or that.
No phones at all. It's like, a high school class that doesn't allow phones.
Watch yourself, Scarlett.
I know,
You're gonna get yourself in
Teleporting
trouble
work
there.
from home.
Scarlett,
More realistic.
Scarlett, could you come with me, please? Like, you're going to get a little... No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our Monday cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. It's great to be back with the gang. All right, we will see you all. Well,
We'll see you Friday.
we'll see them on Wednesday.
No.
No,
We
I
won't.
think Friday.
Oh, is it Friday?
Well, you
Yeah,
guys are traveling,
Friday.
right?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're traveling.
All right, sorry about that. So we'll see you on Friday.
Good luck in your travels.
Bye. Bye.